Anime review. Anime review. Anime review, everyone. So the very first anime I am going to be reviewing for this episode shall be an anime called Denpa Kyoushi, which stands for The Invincible Teacher. Now this anime had some pretty good reviews on the manga, of course, not the anime. Usually animes are made when the manga itself or the light novel, either one, is popular, and then hence an anime is made in accordance. There are some anime that does not have a manga or light novel counterpart. So Denpa Kyoushi follows after a genius protagonist. The protagonist is an otaku. He loves anime, games, all those kind of related things. He's your generic otaku, but he's also a genius. So when he was a wee lad, he read a manga called Doraemon, which has a very cool gadget called Go to Anywhere Door. It's basically a teleportation device. You can set wherever you want to go on the door, and then you open it up and whoosh, you can just walk right through and you're there. It can be anywhere in the world, and hence the protagonist, being the genius that he is, wants to make it, and he actually made it on paper. And using the supercomputers by the highest of science, they have deduced, yes, the hypothesis that he made, despite all the flaws, potential flaws, correction, it is a feasible theory and it could be made. Hence, he was extremely famous on that part. But he only wanted to make that door because he wanted to do it. He calls himself a victim of a syndrome called YD, which stands for yearn to do only. He only does the things that he would like to do. He had no interest about physics or any of that stuff. He just wanted to make the door, and hence he just straight up made it because he's a genius. So then we go on to the story itself. So what's the story about? Well, his sister forces him to take a job because he wasn't really contributing to society. He is forced into a teaching job by his little sister. He doesn't really want to do it, but he has to do it anyways because otherwise his little sister would destroy all his valuables. Don't joke around about these figurines, okay? These figurines, that they are not mass produced. They are limited. Even the most common ones, after a year or two, would be almost impossible to buy again. Unless you go to Japan specifically and go to those pawn shops and etc., you won't be able to find those things. So even as a teacher, being as a teacher, he still has the problem of only doing what he wants to do, and his classes are very special. Despite being an otaku, his personality isn't too bad. He is still a responsible person. It's just he could, be a bit more sensitive to people. So I don't want to go too deep into the anime for this review. Overall, the story is doable. The art style is pretty good as well. I'll talk more about the art style later because there's a problem later on that I don't agree with it, that just lowers my review on this anime. So the protagonist, like I said, is a genius. So he will be attending a school, and then he'll be solving plenty of problems from problem children, and they all just revolve around him. It's nothing too complex, really. It's just a whole lot of weird things regarding with anime. Even on anime standards, it's still slightly weird. The anime, it's watchable, it's doable, it's alright, but in my opinion, you probably do better to just read it. Why? I don't know why, but for some reason, this anime, after the first half of the anime, 12 episodes would be considered as a season, or 13, the quality of the animation just drops way down. If you take a look at the voice lip syncing here, And then you go back to like the very first couple episodes. They're vastly different. The very first season, or at least the first 12 episodes, at least they made an effort to lip sync to according to what they talk, what they say. But then later on here, it's like, and there's not only the lip syncing, there's a lot of other bits and parts that is very stiff. The animation quality just has gone down, and it's just very upsetting. It's not like it's and maybe it is intentional for a budget, but it's very hard to watch after the first 12 episodes. It's like these little things, they nitpick at you, and it's just really annoying. It's hard to watch. So just go read the manga instead, or just the first 12 episodes and don't care about the next 12, because if you can deal with it, fine, you can be that. But for me, the reason why I watch animes is for dinner time and just to see how well they do with the art and voice actors and such. Voice actors, okay. Tension, alright, for how well they seem to get into the personality. Animation, first half, it's doable. And then the latter half, just goes straight down. I'll rate this first 12, I'll rate it a 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. It's nothing too comedic. It's nothing too special. It's not a very must read, but because of the second half where shit just goes down, I'll rate this as a 6 out of 10 or maybe in a 5 out of 10. It's not something you must watch, but I watch it anyways. This is me telling you, don't watch this, go read it, because it's much better. Helps your brain cells a lot more. Now for the second anime, it's going to be my all-time favorite. It's a very special anime that I truly love. I think this was the very first anime that really got me into anime comedy stuff. Like even before this, okay, all I watched was mainly mainstream anime like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, all that kind of bullcrap. Maybe sometimes, occasionally, some good anime, some small ones, but mostly I watched the mainstream ones. But ever since I watched this one called Love Lab, I became much more of a huge fan in anime and all the sorts of related things to it. I wasn't such a huge otaku before this one. Love Lab is anime taking place in high school, all girls high school. All the cast of characters are all female, and of course a comedy one. I just love comedy anime. They bring life to everything. As the title implies, Love Lab, the protagonist, the cast of characters, creates a little group, a lab per se, and their job there is to research how to be in love, how to do lovey-dovey things. But unfortunately, none of them have proper experience regards to this, except for one, but I won't spoil it too much who it is. So, hilarity ensues when they try to research about love, but none of them has any prior experience. Adding to the fact that this anime, of course, there's gonna be a lot of exaggerations, and it tends to lead to a lot of funny moments. Very good and funny moments too. So you have your two main protagonists. One is nicknamed the Wild One. And the second one, dubbed as the Princess because she's extremely talented and apparently she's pretty as well. She is extremely talented. She is supposedly the vice president of the student council, but because of her capabilities, she managed to actually make the president retire. Overall, this anime just is all about some slapstick comedy about how these girls try to learn about love. Unfortunately, the anime ends in 12 to 13 episodes, doesn't go any further, but the manga itself is still ongoing and does touches into the male characters, and naturally, of course, for the loving aspect too in the manga. But the anime, I do highly recommend it. Slapstick comedy, it's pretty funny, it's amazing. It's a very it's a it's just a slice of life anime. It just showcases how these girls try to imagine their love would be, and it all makes sense. And still somewhat not making sense, but that's anime. You can't really expect too much from logic when it comes to anime. Two main protagonists, Riko and Natsui, and they don't really mesh together, but somehow they became best of friends. However, their friendship somewhat built upon a lie due to Riko having too big of a pride and ego. She just literally dug her own grave about 10 feet deep. It's not even 6 feet deep, it's 10 feet. And she just keeps on digging it down and down and down. And of course, the story will have to eventually end up as how she gets out of this hole. Spoilers, this anime will end on a good note because it's a comedy anime, so of course it's going to end nicely. Overall, I rate this anime as a 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 because of just straight comedy. Animation is pretty good. Just basically everything about this anime is above average for a 12 episode non-mainstream anime. It's really surprising how these short animes have way better detailed animations than the mainstream ones. It's like they have a smaller budget, but they still make things work, and that's the impressive part. Unlike the other bigger mainstream anime where they just really rehash and cut down stuff. Now for the last anime is a currently still ongoing anime, and I'm gonna give my piece on this piece of crap. Make no mistake, it's the pretty good anime. The story is pretty good. The animation's debatable. The voice acting, I hate the main protagonist voice actor. I loathe how they chose this kind of voice acting for that character. When I first read the manga, I loved it. Black Clover was a very good anime. It still is actually. It has good enough mysteries to make you keep going. It baits you. It has a carrot on a stick and you want to learn more, so you keep reading it, so that's a really good thing. The anime, not so much. There are some questionable decisions that I feel aren't right myself. The story about Black Clover is in the world of magic. The main protagonist is apparently magicless, has no magic whatsoever, which is kind of odd. But then we learn later on he will gain a new power regarding that aspect. He has no magic, but instead he gains a very special power, and it seems quite overpowered in this world of magic. What he gained was anti-magic. Yes. Instead of gaining magical powers, he gains the ability to use a very special weapon, more to come too. There are multiple anti-magic weapons, but his first one is a large broadsword. Because he has no magic, right? What he did in his entire life was train his body. His body is extremely well toned for a child. It's equivalent to Rock Lee from Naruto. He's really buff. He carries on that huge sword that's made of unknown materials. You can even feel the weight when it first came down. What I really don't like about this anime, that's a huge part. If it's only on a minor character, that's fine. But the protagonist, his voice acting, his voice actor, the choices and decisions are just unfathomable. It's so goddamn annoying. Let me give you some pieces of how annoying he can be in just the first episode or first 2 episodes. I could make a song compilation out of. I understand that they're trying to go for the spunky part of him, a spunky child teenager. But even that is going way too overboard. It's like every moment they just had to drag on his voice. Every single moment he talks is like a banshee screeching, and it just takes away from the experience. I can go on and on about how terrible the choice is, but that's up to you to decide whether it's okay to ignore or watch. I could not stand it. My sister couldn't stand it. She just like, I don't want to watch it anymore. It was too annoying to watch, and the animation quality seemed to keep dropping. And it wasn't even the first season. It was only like the first 10 episodes for some reason, and the animation quality just kept on dropping little by little to the point where the battle scenes were very static like animation. This is 2017, 2018. And this anime still uses animations that are even worse than Dragon Ball Z. When I mean by Dragon Ball Z, I meant the old Dragon Ball Z. It probably has to do with the manga itself, because the fights and everything are usually end pretty quickly due to the main protagonist having an overpowered ability. But that does not change why the animation quality has dropped, why the fights are so stiff, why these fight scenes can't be better. They had one rare good moment of animation. I mean, sure, you can't do this every single time, but this part here does show they have the ability to do something cool and amazing. But they don't. Instead, they opt for the more stiff, static animations. It is mind-boggling. Overall, aside from the animation, fine. It's still watchable if you just try to ignore the animation a bit. But I just, for the good part of me, not stand Asta's goddamn banshee screaming. It was just terrible. Just couldn't continue watching something like that, man. And then another thing I felt very the questionable choice that the animators or director did was in episode 2. They leave it off at a cliffhanger, and then for some reason just pop off to another part of the story. I mean, granted, the whole point of that skit in episode 2 was to prove a point about how unpredictable our protagonist is, but I felt like this is very poor storyboarding. They could put this part in the second episode all the way at the beginning. Show that first, then go on to the main anime. I don't understand this choice. You have this cliffhanger and suddenly the climax is built, and they just took a bucket of water and extinguished it. Overall, I rate this anime 7 out of 10. 6 out of 10 if you include Asta's goddamn annoying voice. Maybe even a 5. It's so hard to watch. It just grits my teeth every single time you hear him. It just hurts. The manga, for some reason, I don't know what's happened here. They introduced this new character, and they seem to, like, the protagonist seems to know them already previously, and then they have this very short excerpt of like just a box panel that details how the main protagonist met them. But that never happened in the manga before. According to the wiki, they were very first introduced on that very chapter. It's like the author suddenly forgot about how he write the story, and it shows after like chapter 60, 70, the story kind of goes a bit all over the place. Although it's only small minor parts like these that kind of just breaks a little bit. Overall, still good, but the author seems to be going in apart confusion as well. Hopefully this does fix this in the anime. Overall, 6 out of 10. Not very high. It's doable. I highly suggest maybe you read it instead of watching it, but that's up to you if you can ignore Asta's goddamn annoying voice. And that ends this episode's anime review. So I've gone over a completed anime that's mediocre due to various reasons. A very good anime of my favorite of all times. And then we have an ongoing anime that's kind of in between as well. It's not exactly terrible, but it's just the voice acting that just killed it for me personally. It was very hard to listen to. Every single sentence was a shrill in it, and it really just grates my ear. So, like if you like this, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all on the next episode of Anime Review. I hope clapping twice doesn't kill off these animes.